Hello, hello. How's it going today? I'm here. Hope everyone's doing well. Today, I actually really want to just like go on a rant about things that have been on my mind surrounding diet culture. Um, and so it is going to be a bit of a rant, but I encourage you to just stick with me, watch the whole thing, and you may, you know, get a couple nuggets of wisdom. Think about something a new way. You know what I mean? So let's get into it, shall we? So I really just have been thinking about how our intense need to be thin is actually really hurting us. You know, society is telling us all the time, be skinny, be thin. That's all that matters. And it's really, really hurting us. It's created this overwhelming, stressful, terrible diet culture full of fad diets and false information. We've become slaves to the scale to just watch those numbers drop. You know what I mean? Like, we're just looking for numbers to be dropping rather than actually considering how we feel on the inside. You know what I mean? Um, and so a lot of people now, because it's just been like pounded into us, think that the only way to lose weight is from restricting themselves with a terrible fad diet and watching the scale, being a slave to the scale, right? And we think that those are the things that are going to help us. But actually, they push us farther and farther away from what we really want, from where we want to be. Okay? So let's just start with fad diets here, okay? And even the word diet has such a negative connotation around it now, right? It's like a diet should just be the foods that you eat. My diet are the foods that I eat. But now when you hear the word diet, it's like, oh, you know? So a diet, a fad diet, what does that typically entail? A list of rules and restrictions, right? Don't eat this, don't eat that, don't do this. You can have this, you can do this, but everything else is completely off limits. And if you can't follow this, you're a total failure, right? I mean, but what they promise is extreme weight loss. You can lose a bunch of weight in a short amount of time, right? That's what they all promise. And so, of course, people want to try it. People get hooked in because we want results fast, right? We want results just like that. We love instant gratification. So we're like, yes, this is the one, you know, every time it ropes people in because of those promises of quick weight loss. And then the diet can go one of two ways, really. One way, the diet fails. And I'd be willing to say that this is the most common outcome. Who agrees? And so why does the diet fail? Well, it's terrible. It's restrictive. You're starving. Your options are extremely limited. You're eating foods that you hate. You're stressing about everything that you put on your plate. You know, you don't feel fulfilled at all. You're probably pretty low energy, and it's really hard to keep up with. Like, you can't live your life the way that you want because so much of your focus is just on what you can and cannot eat. You know? And so then your life starts to kind of suck and be stressful. And so from there, you start to fall off of this diet program, right? And then you feel like a failure, even though you're not a failure. The diet is failing you, you know what I mean? But you start to feel like that, and you judge yourself, and you think you have no willpower, and there's something wrong with you, you know? And it's like, oh, it's a total loss. I give up, and then you just go back to your old ways, your old habits, your old eating patterns. And a lot of the time, you might binge on all the foods that you've restricted because it feels so good to have those foods available to you again. You know, you're not restricting yourself. So you're like, rah, right? Just like, get in there, binging, because it feels good to have them again, right? But then you start to feel out of control, and and then it creates this whole new kind of restrictive eating cycle. It creates so many extra problems that never would have existed in the first place if these diets wouldn't have been so restrictive. right? And then most of the time you've done all that and then you gain all the weight back that you would have lost in that time, and sometimes even more, right? Sucks. The second way a diet might go is that the diet does succeed and you were able to restrict yourself enough for that specific amount of time, and you do lose weight, which is great, if that's what you're going for and you made it through and that worked for you, awesome. But what happens when the diet is over? What do? Can you make this a lifestyle, or is now the diet over and then we just go back to all of our old ways because we don't know what else to do? Because the diet hasn't taught you anything about your habits and your patterns of eating. You haven't actually learned what foods are good for your body that actually make you feel energetic and happy and good, right? You've only been learning about what foods to restrict. You haven't learned about why you eat when you eat, or how much you eat, how you're eating. You haven't learned about emotional eating. Are you eating when you're feeling these emotions, or you're stressed, or you're bored, and you haven't learned of any other options of how to deal with that. So then you go back to the old ways, right? You might not have learned how to actually stop eating when you're full within a given meal, because you've just been focusing on the restrictions. And so that's what you do. But then when the diet is over and you don't have that restriction, you have no idea how to really limit yourself, right? Or to do what's best for your body. And you haven't learned how to self-motivate without someone telling you exactly what to do for a certain amount of time, right? So you haven't learned what actually works for your body and your lifestyle, right? It's not become a sustainable change. And so what happens when the diet is over? Even if you've had success, you probably go back to all your old habits and eating patterns. And more often than not, you gain all of the weight back again, if not more. There's studies that have said 80 to 95% of people, some studies even say 98% of dieters gain the weight back and then some within 2 years. That's a very high percentage of people, right? And it's so common because the fad diets don't teach you how to be healthy. The only emphasis of the diet is to lose weight and become thin, right? Restrict, lose weight. Restrict, lose weight. We think we just have to punish and restrict ourselves for a certain amount of time in order to be thin. But then what happens? You've lost the weight, maybe, but haven't figured out what works for you in the long run. And then we gain the weight back and we blame ourselves and we get really down and we judge ourselves and all of this, and it creates a whole other slew of problems surrounding food and eating and weight and self-confidence, self-image. Oh my gosh, right? Plus, every time this happens, the yo-yo dieting, lose, gain, lose, gain, lose, gain. It puts a lot of stress on your body and makes it harder and harder to lose the weight the next time you try. Every time you go through this yo-yo dieting process, it makes it harder to lose the weight the next time, right? So this is why we need the emphasis on being healthy. The goal is to be healthy, not thin. When you learn to be healthy and live a healthy lifestyle, that's when your weight will naturally catch up and stay off. Right? Because it's a lifestyle. It's not this yo-yo-y pattern. Right? And I also want to touch on watching the scale. Oh my gosh. Because how many people, when they're trying to lose weight, are constantly checking the scale every single day, right? Every day. And the scale literally has the power to make your day or break it. right? So if you notice the numbers on the scale going down, you're like, I'm great, I've done it, this is really working, go me, everything is great, I'm so motivated, and you keep going. But then what happens when the numbers stay the same or even go up? It ruins you. It ruins your whole day. You feel like everything you're doing is not working. You feel like a failure. You feel like nothing is gonna work, you know? And so then, I mean, half the time then you're like, well, it's not even worth it anyway. Let me go binge on all this food that I've probably been cutting out. You know, you lose your motivation. You feel like giving up just like that, just from a number change on the scale, right? But we're humans and we're constantly fluctuating, especially as women. Like, we have hormones all over the place. Our bodies are always moving and changing. We're always going to fluctuate, you know? So why do we put so much self-worth on a number on the scale? That number does not determine your worth. It doesn't determine whether you're allowed to be happy or not, or go out and live your life the way you want to, right? It's like we won't allow ourselves to truly be happy or live a life that we want until we get to a certain number on the scale. And how terrible is that? Right? It's just a number. Like, so we feel like we can't go out and live until we're a certain number on the scale. But get this. If you were to go out and truly live your life the way that you want, instead of waiting until you hit a certain number on the scale, if you went out and found things that fulfilled you and made you happy and at peace, everything starts to fall into alignment because you're living a life that you want and love. And guess what? That is when the weight starts to release and fall off. Because when you're constantly stressing about that number on the scale, it's creating that stress in your body. And when your body feels that stress, it holds on to everything it's got. It's going to continue to hold on to that excess. You want to get your body into that relaxed state, that rest and digest, and that's when the weight falls off. So instead of stressing about a scale every day, putting your life on hold, go out and live. Create the life that you want. The purpose of life is to live it, right? So stop waiting on the scale, please. If you're trying to lose weight and you want to know how to track your results, go by how you feel. Do you feel energetic? Do you feel happy and alive? If you do, that means that you've tapped into your natural health. Do you feel lighter? You can literally feel lighter in your body without the number on the scale changing. How do your clothes fit? Are they feeling looser? Look in the mirror. Take your measurements. Their measurements start to go down, but the number on the scale doesn't move. I hear that happening all the time, and it still frustrates people, but your measurements are going down. You're literally getting smaller, but the number isn't changing. That number means nothing. Right? Focus on how you feel. And also with that, the number on the scale does not determine how healthy you are. There are plenty of people who are thin and extremely unhealthy. I was one of them. Just because there's a low number on the scale does not necessarily mean that you're healthy. There are people who don't have a lot of body fat surrounding their whole body, right? So maybe they look smaller, but they have a lot of visceral fat on the inside, the dangerous kind of fat that can really, really affect your health, right? It can still be there, trust me. And those people are at just as big of risk of all those lifestyle diseases, right? They don't have less of a chance of developing those just because they have a low number on the scale. They look thin to the outside eye. They can still be completely unhealthy. Okay? So it's time to stop giving your power away to a number. It's time to focus on how you feel, right? How do you feel? Do you feel light and energetic? Like, please don't wait to live your life until you're a certain number on the scale. Go out and live it now. When you start living your life and find peace and happiness, a healthy relationship with food and your body, the body will naturally morph itself into the shape it's supposed to be naturally. That's how it works, okay? So please stop living to be thin and start living to be vibrant and healthy and alive, right? And listen, here's more. Did you know that having an unhealthy gut can actually affect your mood and mental state? Having an unhealthy gut can literally contribute to anxiety and depression, right? 90% of serotonin is actually made in your gut. 90%, that feel-good chemical. We all know about that serotonin. It's made in the gut, in a healthy gut environment, right? Having an unhealthy gut, oh my gosh, can contribute to so many things. Inflammation, oh my gosh, headaches, allergies. It affects your whole immune system too. Like, this is why focusing on nourishing ourselves, not restricting, is so important. Creating a healthy environment within your body, right? And how about this? I think this is so fascinating. So did you know that eating healthy foods can actually turn off genes that lead to disease and turn on genes that prevent it? It's called epigenetics. Look it up. The latest research shows that you are not necessarily bound by your genes. Yes, of course, they'll always play a factor in our health, but that's not the end all be all of your future. Because the food that you eat literally sends messages to your DNA to prevent disease, protect you from it, or allow you to be overcome by it. Isn't that crazy? Like, food can be the best medicine we've got. Preventative care. It can reverse disease. It's insane, right? So why are we looking at food as just something to restrict in order to be thin, when we can be looking at food as a powerful healing tool, nourishing us, preventing us from getting those lifestyle diseases that affect so many? Did you know that about 45% of American adults have some form of chronic illness? 45% of American adults. And many of those could be prevented, alleviated, or reversed by simple lifestyle changes, okay? So the CDC, this is coming from the CDC website. The CDC estimates that eliminating 3 risk factors, poor diet, inactivity, and smoking, could prevent 80% of heart disease and stroke, 80% of type 2 diabetes, and 40% of cancer. Lifestyle changes. Not dieting, not restricting, not being skinny, just changing your lifestyle to be healthier. I just followed a woman called Sarah Gottfried on Instagram, and it actually is what led to this whole thought process and this rant. And so if you're a woman, follow Sarah Gottfried, MD, on Instagram. Also Sexy Food Therapy on Instagram. I adore both of them, and I've just been looking at all their posts like, wow, so much amazing information about feminine health, I guess. But so this doctor, Sarah Gottfried, was talking about how prevalent breast cancer is today. So 1 in 8 women will develop breast cancer at some point in their life. That's the recent statistic, right? And this number is supposed to rise by 50% by 2030. So this is a big, big risk. And then she went on to say that half of breast cancers might be able to be prevented by lifestyle medicine. Half. By lifestyle medicine, right? So why are we not thinking about health in this way? Why are we only thinking about being thin, right? Why are people not screaming this from the rooftops? I mean, I think we all probably have an idea, but I mean, of course our future is never guaranteed, right? We don't know. But isn't it worth trying? right? It's worth trying. Healthy food, decent exercise, less sugar, less processed foods, healthy mindset, lifestyle, a healthy lifestyle. These things can literally prevent and reverse diseases. Oh, and when you do these things, you naturally lose weight as well. And when it's that lifestyle, the weight stays off. It's a lifestyle, right? So please, please, let's shift the focus from being thin to being healthy, living a healthy lifestyle. Thank you for sticking with me on this rant. I really feel strongly about it, obviously. If you want to find your true health without doing another restrictive, terrible diet, without going on that yo-yo roller coaster, right, and being a slave to the scale, if you want to figure out how to create your healthy lifestyle, please reach out to me. I'm here for you. All right. Take care, guys.